The night was quiet, too quiet, until the sound of footsteps echoed down the alley. She could feel the tension in the air, every shadow moving like it had a life of its own. Around her, a group of gang members closed in, smirks on their faces, thinking they had the upper hand. But she didn't flinch. Instead, she took a slow breath and said with calm certainty, "I warned you. I'm a combat master." For a moment, no one moved. Her words hung in the air, sharp and heavy, cutting through the nervous laughter and whispers. These weren't just empty threats, they were a warning, a promise rooted in years of discipline, training, and experience that none of them could fully understand. The gang members, confident just seconds ago, now hesitated, glancing at each other like uncertainty had crept into their bones. Every eye in the alley focused on her, trying to read her next move. The tension was electric, almost unbearable. She could see it in their expressions. The disbelief, the doubt, and maybe, just maybe, the fear. In less than 2 seconds, the balance of power could change completely, and she knew it. This wasn't just a fight, it was a test. A moment that would define who held control. And as the seconds stretched longer than they should, everyone froze, waiting for what was about to happen. What she did next would shock them all. And the story was far from over. She didn't always live in alleys and back streets where danger lurked around every corner. Years ago, she had been training in places most people only saw in movies: intense combat academies, hidden dojos, and remote wilderness camps where survival meant more than just skill. It meant instinct. Every punch, every hold, every calculated move had been drilled into her body until it became second nature. But tonight, she was far from those controlled environments. And the stakes felt different, real, unpredictable, and deadly. The gang members were amateurs, but arrogance ran in their veins. They had underestimated her, assuming she was just another target, someone they could intimidate and scare. Their laughter had faded, replaced by the sound of shallow breaths and shifting feet. She studied them silently, noticing their weaknesses, small tells in their posture, a twitch in the shoulder, hesitation in their eyes. She could read them like an open book, each thought and fear reflected without a word spoken. Behind the tension, memories flickered, moments when she had faced far worse, situations where every second counted. It was that experience, that unshakable calm in the eye of chaos, that made her different. Yet, despite her confidence, she remained aware that unpredictability could strike at any moment. The alley seemed to shrink, the shadows closing in, but she didn't flinch. The air was thick with anticipation. One wrong move, one misread signal, and it could all spiral out of control. And as the gang members lingered, caught between defiance and fear, she knew that in the next heartbeat, everything could change. But how? That question hung over them all, heavy and unanswered. One of the gang members shifted nervously, tugging at the sleeve of his jacket as if hoping someone else would make the first move. His eyes darted to his friends, searching for reassurance, but all he found was the same growing doubt mirrored back at him. None of them had expected her calm, the quiet confidence that seemed to radiate from every movement she made. It was as if she was already a step ahead, and that thought alone began to unravel their bravado. She, meanwhile, scanned the alley with precision. Every escape route, every shadow, every potential weapon was accounted for. But she wasn't here just to survive, she was here to send a message. A message that no one, not even a group like this, could intimidate her or dictate her choices. There was more at stake than a single confrontation. The stakes were tied to her past, to a reputation she had spent years building, and to the people she had vowed to protect. Behind her, the city hummed, indifferent to the drama unfolding in this narrow alley. Somewhere, sirens wailed and car engines rumbled, but it all felt distant, irrelevant compared to the moment at hand. One of the gang members finally whispered something under his breath, a nervous challenge, and the tension snapped tighter. Every second stretched painfully, the unspoken question hanging in the air. Who would make the first move? And then, in the midst of the standoff, a faint sound from the alley's far end made her pause. Someone or something was approaching, and it wasn't part of the gang. The new presence promised either danger or an unexpected twist. And suddenly, the night felt even darker, heavier, and far more unpredictable. The sound grew louder, each step echoing against the brick walls, pulling every eye toward the alley's entrance. Her senses sharpened instinctively. She could feel the tension radiating off the gang members, their confidence now completely fractured. They shifted uneasily, fingers twitching near pockets and belts, unsure if they were preparing to attack or fleeing before it was too late. Her heart beat steadily, controlled, in contrast to the chaos surrounding her. She had faced countless threats before, but the unpredictability of this moment made it different. One wrong move could ignite disaster, and she knew that even the smallest hesitation could cost her everything. She held her stance, ready for whatever came, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make the gang members squirm. From the shadows, a figure emerged, cloaked and deliberate, each step measured. She couldn't yet tell if this new presence was an ally or a threat, and that uncertainty added weight to the already unbearable tension. The gang members froze completely now, eyes wide, sweat glinting in the dim light. Their bravado had vanished entirely, replaced by a tangible fear that made the alley feel smaller, more suffocating. She glanced between them and the approaching figure, calculating, weighing every possible outcome. The night seemed to hold its breath. Every heartbeat, every shallow exhale, every nervous glance became magnified, stretched taut across the seconds. And then, just as the figure drew near, the air seemed to crack with anticipation. Something was about to happen that none of them could have predicted, a moment that would change everything in the alley forever. The figure finally stepped into the dim light, and for a heartbeat, everything seemed to pause. She could make out the glint of something metallic on their belt, the way their eyes scanned the scene with a calm precision that rivaled her own. The gang members stiffened even more, some taking involuntary steps backward, as if the presence alone threatened to undo all their plans. But just as she thought she had assessed the newcomer, a second, more shocking detail revealed itself. One of the gang members, the loudest and most arrogant, suddenly drew a small device from his pocket remote of some kind. Her eyes widened slightly. This wasn't just an alley confrontation anymore. There was a hidden threat she hadn't anticipated. The device could trigger anything, and in this moment, the stakes skyrocketed. She realized that every move had to be calculated, every instinct relied upon. One mistake could unleash chaos, and the alley could erupt into a disaster no one would survive. The approaching figure didn't flinch, didn't even react to the device, but she noticed a subtle shift in their stance, a readiness that hinted at far more skill than the gang members could comprehend. Her mind raced, analyzing possibilities, weighing risks. The tension in the alley had transformed from a simple standoff into a high-stakes game where control could shift in seconds. The gang members looked between her and the newcomer, uncertainty twisting their faces. Their fear was palpable, their earlier bravado shattered, yet they clung to one desperate hope, that somehow, the odds could still swing in their favor. But she knew better. The night was about to explode into something none of them were truly prepared for, and what came next would decide who walked away and who didn't. The tension in the alley snapped like a stretched wire. In a blur of movement, she disarmed the gang member holding the device, twisting his wrist and sending it clattering to the ground. The others froze, their disbelief palpable as she moved with the precision of someone who had trained for years for moments like this. Her calm, steady focus never wavered. Even as the metallic glint of the approaching figure caught her eye, the newcomer revealed themselves. Fully a former ally from her combat academy, someone she hadn't expected to see in the city. With a quick nod they flanked her, silently signaling that they were on the same side. Together, they neutralized the remaining threat, forcing the gang members to their knees, powerless against skill and experience far beyond their comprehension. In mere seconds, what had seemed like certain danger became complete control, leaving the alley silent except for ragged breaths and the distant hum of the city. Just as she allowed herself a moment to exhale, the unexpected happened. A hidden camera, cleverly positioned above the alley, flickered to life, broadcasting the entire confrontation to an unknown audience. Her heart skipped a beat. This wasn't over. The fight had been witnessed, and the consequences were about to spread far beyond this one street. The gang members, defeated and humiliated, glanced at her with a mix of fear and awe, but she knew their humiliation was only the beginning. The alley, once a place of imminent danger, now held a different kind of suspense. She had won the immediate battle, but the real challenge was just beginning. Someone, somewhere, had been watching, and they wouldn't forget what they saw. The city lights reflected off the wet asphalt as she stood in the alley, catching her breath. The gang